Well, we will begin now. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Sensney, and I am the director of the Kiewit Design Build Scholars Program here at University of Colorado. And we're going to talk a little bit about the program. Slides. Talk a little bit about the program. The scholarship program. We're going to talk a little bit about the company, and then we're going to give a student perspective. We have one of our alumni here who is going to work at Kiewit, Emma Andreessen, who we'll hear from at the end. So here's the agenda: intro, scholarship program, intro to Kiewit, and then student perspective. Thank you. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so as we were just saying, Kiewit Design Build Scholars Program started in the fall of 2020. That's the same time that I started here, so timing was good. I used to work at Kiewit, so I was a pavement designer at Kiewit. I did that for 2 years. Prior to that, I was in the Air Force for 20 years doing pavement design, evaluation, construction for airfield pavements, runways, taxiways, parking aprons, that kind of thing. But at Kiewit, I was doing it for roads and highways. So a little bit about the genesis of this scholarship program. The Kiewit, one of their core businesses or core competencies is highway infrastructure construction and big projects, big mega projects. And they typically go after what are called design build contracts or projects that go through design build contract delivery. And I think most of you might know what that is, so I won't get into details on that. But essentially, the same organization designs the project and constructs it, the same entity, versus the traditional way is design, bid, build, where a design firm would design a roadway project, and then it would go out for bid, and then a different construction company would then build it. That's still the way a lot of projects are done, probably the vast majority. But a lot of these big, complex projects go through design build. There's a little bit better profit margin on those, but you need to be a big company and reputable and be innovative and have a lot of experience with these types of projects to be successful at them. So in the past, Kiewit had partnered with engineering firms, and there's a whole litany of engineering firms out there. Parsons is one of them, WSP, AECOM, you may have heard of them, you may have not. But in the past, they would partner with those firms where they would lead the design and then Kiewit would lead the construction, and they'd still be kind of separate. About 10 years ago, Kiewit decided to bring that design capability in-house. And they really started launching it about 5 years ago. And one offshoot of that was setting up this office in Lone Tree, which is called Kiewit Infrastructure Engineers, or KIE. And there's a picture of the office right there in the bottom of the screen. So the idea there is for these transportation infrastructure projects that Kiewit would lead the design for those. And those designers, most of them would be housed there in KIE. They wouldn't necessarily do all the design because there's a lot of requirements for that, but they would be the lead for it. When I started there I'm trying to remember the year, 2018, I believe, there were 200 engineers there. When I left, there were 300. Now they're up to 1,100. Not necessarily all in South Denver, but part of KIE. And there's more demand than that. And they have a great need for engineers. So that was one of the big reasons to spur this scholarship program, where they're looking for engineers like yourselves from Colorado to go work for Kiewit and help fill that need. So I'll just say this, also this. So that's the design side. That's the K side. There's also field engineers, which is kind of a broad term, where you would work on a project and probably be located on that project and work for a construction district within Kiewit. And there's a district here in Denver called Central District. There's 2 in California. There's 1 in Phoenix that's Southwest. There's a Southeast. There's a Northeast district. And they're kind of regionally responsible for the construction in those regions. And we had 2 field engineers come talk to our Gen 1400 class on Monday. One of them was a civil engineer, and he's been in construction for 10 years at Kiewit for 10 years. And he talked about all the different projects he went to. The other was a mechanical engineer, and she just graduated in the spring and is now leading the blasting up at Gross Reservoir and blowing up rocks and designing the blast patterns for that. So lots of neat opportunities, but just letting you know that there's a field engineer side and a design engineer side, and sometimes they mix. Sometimes the design engineers go in the field, sometimes the field engineers go into design, or some people shift their careers. But those are 2 broad opportunities that you would have at a company like Kiewit. All right, so the program itself, geared towards students interested in infrastructure engineering and construction, kind of like everything I talked about. There's scholarships available. There's some experiential learning. There's mentorship opportunities. There's site tours, which I'll get to. So I'll talk about a couple site tours that we've done. We took one to the Central 70 site, which is in North Denver. And that is the reconstruction of 10 miles of I-70, where it used to go above ground in a viaduct. And they have designed it to now go below ground. We went out there, it was a great site visit, had a great time out there. You can leave it there. So another one here is North Water Treatment Plant, which is in Golden. If you're going down Highway 93 towards Golden, it must be on a timer, which is fine. They're building this huge water treatment plant. There's a Moffett plant in Wheat Ridge that is 80 years old. So it's being replaced by this one in Golden. Giant water storage structures that you see there. Really fascinating project that's going on. I think they still have about a year left of construction for that. And who did I say is going to work there? Angel is going to work to intern there this summer, which is awesome. And then this is a training center, Aurora, and we took the scholars out there. This is where they do hands-on training for the craft or the trades. And they have welding workshops there and pipe bending, conduit bending. There's an asphalt plant out there. And so we took the students out there and they got to do some welding and bend some conduit and get their hands dirty a little bit. So that was a neat experience. I think it's a good place to transition to your slides. We have, I think Lindsay's going to pull up your presentation. Jim. And this is Jim Rowings. Jim, I'll let you introduce yourself.
My name is Jim Rowings. I'm Director of University Relations now for Kiewit. So I work with the scholar programs, and we have this one. And we have one at Nebraska, one at Iowa State, and one at Purdue, all top-notch engineering schools, and that's why we partner with them. So we collaborate to develop the program. We fund it. And that provides some staffing as well as some support for the programming. And of course, something of interest to all of you is scholarship to help defray some of your debt so you don't have debt as you get through the program. So we got that up. Let's go to the next slide here. A little bit about us. This is what we are, this is, we started, really, the company started in 1884. What's really important to you is kind of what we're doing today. And we've evolved to really virtually in every market except residential. We don't focus on residential, but we work in every other construction market out there that you can imagine. Everything from SpaceX facilities down in Texas, highways, bridges, offshore platforms, buildings, SoFi Stadium, you name it. We get involved with it in some way. This last year, we just finished up about $12.5 billion worth of work. That's not bad considering Peter Kiewit, our founder, wanted us to be the best contracting organization on earth, not the biggest. But when if you do things well, you get opportunities, and if you're willing to take risk and manage it, you can stay in business, stay around. This year, we're going to do about 15 billion. So that ought to concern a lot of people. When you did 12.5 billion this year, and this year we're going to do 15 billion. That takes a lot more people, and that doesn't mean you can go hire people, but they're not that productive right away when they go to work for you. So it is going to be a challenge to get that $15 billion put in place well, and without job losses and other things that we worry about safety incidents, all of that. We pride ourselves on whatever we do, doing it with excellence. So to do that, we have, Chris talked about the 1,100 engineers in KIE, which will probably, that doesn't include Mexico, and it doesn't include all of our engineers in Houston and in Kansas City that are in our industrial markets, designing our power markets, solar, wind, gas-fired power plants, nuclear, in oil and gas, in renewables, and in LNG and those things. We've got well over 2,000 engineers. In fact, I think it's going to be closer to 3,000 by the end of the year. Just a lot of opportunity out there, a lot of jobs that we've already been successful at getting awarded. So a big part of this is going to be putting some interns to work. And interns for us tend to do what our new hire engineers do, quite frankly. Now, I've had new hire engineers come in and talk to the scholars, and they'll tell you, you feel a lot more pressure once they graduate, because they aren't backed up by a lot of other people. But interns, we give them a lot of responsibility. So that's a big part of what we want to do with all of the scholars here, is get them as early as possible an opportunity, and then they can decide, there's no forcing of anybody to do anything, but there'll be some great opportunities out there for them. Overall, we've managed to be very successful in a number of different markets, and this is really hard to do. I really only think of one other contractor in the United States that can work in all of these markets like we do, and that's the Bechtel. We got visibility on campus here too. I know Stephen Jr. got his master's degree here, I think, at Boulder. But there's no other company that can do all of the things that we do. We got a lot of expertise. We hired a lot of experienced people in design so that we had that experience. And so going to work in the design side for us, it's some of the best in the world, really. Our Chief Engineers Council reads like a who's who of engineering and mechanical, electrical, and controls and tanks and everything that we do. We have the top dam designer down here, Del Shannon in the office in Lone Tree. I mean, he's recognized throughout the world. Anybody that's going to do a dam, either build a dam or take a dam down, he's the guy they go to get the expertise. So we're very fortunate to have that and have these opportunities as a company, and it presents a lot of opportunities for young folks getting their degrees to learn while they're getting the degree, and that's the experiential learning Chris was talking about, and then also to grow when they get out. A lot of room for growth, and usually you shouldn't do the same thing for more than about 6 months to a year, and you may have the same job title for a year to 2 years, but you're going to move with that. And what we find is that people seek that new opportunity. They master what they're doing, or they think they're getting close to mastering it. We've already moved them on to something to get them out of their comfort zone. I mean, I think that's the way you grow, is you get out of the comfort zone and you do something that you aren't familiar with. And Takes a little courage, so you have to grow that while you're in college too, but those of you that are freshmen are getting a lot of that right now, so we know that happens. Next slide, please. The one thing that you get with Kiewit is an opportunity to really chart your own career path. There's a lot of things you can do. I had a number of the students that have come back here and talked about, day in the life, and they'll start out in design and they'll go out and they'll work on a project in the field and they'll want to see it actually built, and then they'll go back and design, or then they'll go on and they'll lead an area within design, a discipline area. So there's a lot of opportunity and the ability to, if you want to take on a lot of responsibility, there's a lot of opportunity to do that with us. We feed that out, and we give you a little bit more than you're probably quite ready for. That's why I say you got to get out of your comfort zone. But that's how you grow. You stretch yourself. Next slide, please. So these are just the markets, and we talked about this, but there's a lot of exciting new things happening. You hear a lot about sustainability and energy, all of these things, the rising water in the oceans and all this, they are just creating all kinds of opportunities for us. And we just have to grow so we're ready to take advantage of those opportunities and take on work and manage that risk in a way that is profitable for everybody. We all feel better about jobs when we're making money on them, when we're not making money on them. So we're very deliberate, very process oriented in how we estimate and how we build work. And we know that people today don't grow up on farms like they used to and learn some basic things. So we get you out on the work. And so the closer you get to the work face, the more you learn how things are built. You get to know craftsmen and appreciate what they do. That's why we had the scholars down at the craft training center. It's a little hands-on and know what this is all about, welding and various things. This is just an idea of how our market is distributed at a point in time. It will vary some, but typically oil and gas and transportation are equal at about a third of our work, and the other markets make up the rest of it. We've been a little bit bigger in power. We've been a little bit bigger in oil and gas at times. Transportation has been bigger way back. We moved from being a general contractor for buildings to doing transportation work when we started because of the Depression. We started the year of the Great Depression as a company. So, we're built in with grit. That's what we're looking for, are people who got a little grit and have had to fight for what they get. You can see as a size, the number of employees we've got. That mobile workforce is huge for us. Craftsmen that are willing to go where the work is, and they get compensated very well. I'll just be quite frank with you. Our craftsmen make more than you will when you graduate from college every year. Anybody that doesn't think craftsmen make a lot of money, they can make a lot of money, and it's something that a lot of people ought to consider as an option rather than just go to college because somebody told them they ought to go to college. There's a lot to be done in there, and they can advance in our company. If you've got the wherewithal to collaborate and work with people, you can move up in our company as well that way. But there's certain things about design that you need that engineering degree for too. So when you get into the design, build, integrated delivery, which is what this program is about, it's all about having engineers that understand construction, because we work just like that. We are responsible jointly for this project outcome. It's not pointing fingers, it's the design is a problem or construction's a problem. We are the problem. So we want you to learn all aspects of that, and that's where I will encourage you in internships, even if you're interested in being a civil designer, go out and take a field internship in our infrastructure business. And if you're in construction, you go take an opportunity to work in some other aspect in the design build office or with equipment or with the group that does construction services, which is temporary design. I mean, any of those opportunities you can get will help you to broaden your skill sets while you're in school. You don't really know what you want to do when you get out, because just saying you want to do something because you love bridges, well, there's all aspects of bridges, and you build them or you can design them. And it's kind of good to know a little bit about our Walter Eggers, who's an alum of here, who's our chief bridge design engineer. He knows the construction aspect exactly, because that's part of the scheming, is how we're going to build it, is how we design it. Let's move on to the next slide here. You can see some of the projects, and we've done some pretty cool things. These cable stayed bridges are a high-tech bridge. We do a lot of those. That's something we're good at. And, you know, we plan and we do some more planning when we do those kind of projects. The same goes for the energy projects. The industrial stuff, that's a big project we did up in British Columbia. It's the biggest seed or grain processing facility in North America. Actually, the Saudis are the financiers for that. So that grain's all going overseas. Okay, next. So, and Chris mentioned this, we have two kinds of opportunities here. One is in the field, or we call office engineer, which is out in the field. And that's really out related to the construction processes, project controls, quality, those kind of things, scheduling our equipment. We're the largest owner of construction equipment in North America. We're the biggest customer of Caterpillar, if you will. I mean, that's what we're kind of known for. We know how to make that stuff work. Big data, I mean, is all a part of equipment today. So there's a lot of opportunities even in that with our equipment group, and they're headquartered over here in Aurora, right next to our training center over there as well. And then, you know, work plans, we're big on planning. What we determined a long time ago, this kind of goes back 40 years ago, is that we can spend up to 5% of the cost of a project on planning and get every penny back with a return. So we are not hesitant to go plan and do more planning. Where most companies go out and they, what do you call, ready, shoot, and then you aim. We don't like that. We like to plan it, have it on paper, know what we're going to do, look at it from every angle, and then go and execute very well. It's just like the carpenter that says measure twice, cut once. That's the field or office engineer. They are vitally important to keep everything flowing in the field, because that's where we spend most of the money, and we can either make money or lose money. The design engineer is the key partner that really is looking ahead to give an efficient design, something that we can build and we can generate a product for our client that's going to be more cost effective than other people could do when they just design it and then somebody else bids it and they have to build it with kind of a flawed design. Our designers need to understand all the construction details because we're all ultimately jointly responsible in the company for this. So we work very closely together. So it's good. It's kind of a neat feeling. And why a lot of designers left these other big design firms that Chris mentioned to join us, these top people, because they were fed up with this contentious, constantly bickering, battling, and fighting in court with designer and constructor. They work for us, and that's all gone. We can spend our time doing some creative design work, bringing ideas from the field of how we might build something a little bit better and with a different design detail. And so everybody just likes that environment that works here. And that's why they come over to us. That's why they stay with us. And not to say they also get paid probably a little bit better because we are all owned by our employees. So we have it's not an ESOP, but there's a stock program where about a third of our employees own all of the shares of the company. So they basically, we benefit from what we do. And we're very proud of the fact that we have skin in the game personally, you know, and most of our people have taken out a little bit of a loan to buy the stock. And so the company has no debt, but our individual employees might have a little bit of a stock loan. But the nice thing is they retire pretty nice stead if they stick with it all the way through. We don't have any stock that's owned by anybody that's not working in the company. So as Peter Kiewit said, we're not going to be owned by a bunch of orphans and widows. We're going to be owned by the employees. So when you retire, you sell your stock. It's that simple. And that's when you cash out. And and so you don't pay taxes also on that cash out, which is kind of nice because the tax bill comes around every year for most people. And bonuses and things like that. And we have bonuses, but our bonus structure is much lower. And the reason it is because you just have to pay a bunch of taxes on bonuses. So most people would rather have it in their stock ownership. So our core values, real simple. We're all about people, and that's where safety comes in. We talk about that, but in developing people. This company, the reason I left academia to join Kiewit was two things. One is they're recognized as, at the time, the Forbes magazine referred to us as the Harvard of the construction industry. More training and development than anywhere, and that's where I wanted to be. That was my passion. And the second thing was they worry about the bottom line, not the top line. You don't measure ourselves by being a $15 billion company. We personally all measure it by making the profit at the end of the year. I'll talk about that because obviously we're not publicly traded, but that's what we all care about is the profitability of bottom line oriented rather than top line oriented. And we care about developing our people. So that gives you sustainability through there. And then with the people side, and then because it's ownership by the people that work here, they want to stay. And that's where the stewardship comes in. And we talk about a core value is we want to pass this on. We completely turn over our ownership of the company about every 25 years. This isn't a bunch of old people on Wall Street that go look at their paper and figure out how much they're worth every day. The only way we make money is when we make money every year, right? So everybody worries about that. When you're not working there, you're glad for everybody that's left, but you got yours out. And so you're happy for them to go forward and keep doing what you've been doing for years there too. That's kind of a neat way to kind of pay it forward. That stewardship is, we think about. We also give back in our communities and very philanthropic, you'll find these programs as well as many others. We focus on trying to be the best at everything we do. Whether it's having the best training and development program, as I've led for a number of years, we wanted to be proud of that, or it's the best HR department, or it's the best equipment efficiency and effectiveness and utilization fleet. Everybody takes that pride in what they do. And then for some of you that were here, I talked about our ethical foundation. Integrity is everything that we do. It's the one thing that we cannot compromise in any way. We will lose money. We will do whatever we have to do to protect our integrity. We fire some pretty senior people if they cross the line. Somebody crosses the line in what they do, that's just not acceptable here. That's part of, you want to look for that. You want to work with people that you can all trust. And I think that's something to establish, whether it's in your small groups that you work with at school, or it's when you get out, making sure, and there's a lot of fine companies that have integrity, but don't ever lose sight that that's really important. Of all those core values, that is most important. That's the gold standard right there for any company you should go to work for. We pride ourselves on the way we look at safety is it's not a matter of stats. It's all about we work safe because we have family we want to go home to. We don't want anybody to get hurt. You're all, what years are you? Freshmen, sophomores? So I worked my way through school, and at the end of my sophomore year, I was working my way, and I worked for a really fine company, but I lost a finger. I mean, I know firsthand what a workplace accident does, and you know how it, of course, I didn't have a career in rock music after that because I would have had to try it away. But more importantly, I know how my mother felt, you know, everybody around me. I mean, you know, you just feel so bad. And so we really work at trying to avoid any of those instances. And you think about what could happen, what might take place. And you just play that in your mind and you go do something about it. You don't just talk about it, but you go do something about it. You never walk by, we always say, never walk by an unsafe incident. We try to do things right the first time. That's where all that planning comes in, is let's figure out how we're going to do this, make sure we're doing it right. And also those two go together, because when you go back and you start to rework something, that's when you don't have a good plan. That's when accidents occur. So doing it right the first time goes really with that scene. And then what we do matters. And that's probably the coolest thing. And I think that ought to draw you to our company, but into the infrastructure world at all. Whether you work for us, you work for one of the others that design or build this stuff right now, that really matters. That's really what we have generated our society in the United States on. It really means a difference for us. And we see where people in other countries want to do the same thing, because that's how you grow from a third world developing country to a first world problem of having to figure out where you're going to invest your wealth. You're gonna be able to put in healthcare systems and in other things to benefit society. But it all starts with the infrastructure. So right now is as good a time as any. They just put out, was it $1 trillion package or something of infrastructure in the next 5 years? Guess what? It's not gonna come out all in 5 years. There's gonna be a lot there. When you get out, graduate the first 2 or 3 years, you're still gonna be designing and building off of that fund that was just passed in the last year or so. Pretty cool. Next slide. So why would we, I mean, we love the Buffs, that's great. We like Colorado. You got a great engineering program, but why would we do this? Why would we do leadership program for scholars? And we're doing it not just here, we're doing it some other places too. Well, we put our money where we think the best place to bet is. So that's why we picked the 4 schools that we did, because you guys are all pretty exceptional. And there's good opportunity for you. But we think that you can also, with this great technical education that you're getting in Colorado, you get some of the best professors around for this. And you know, putting that together, we're gonna have the future, we're gonna have to build some leaders too while we're doing it. And university engineering programs are really good at technical stuff. And there are faculty around, there's some that come from industry like Chris and that can really mentor and help people along growing their leadership potential. There's clubs, Concrete Canoe Club, they're gonna, for their concrete canoe this Friday, it's a deep program. Those are other ways to do it. But if there are things that we can share insight, we can put some of our folks in front of you in a classroom, or in a seminar, or we have a program. I mean, we might hang out with you at the bowling alley, who knows what we might do in this, but also we'll get you out and work with us in the summer. We can help develop, and you'll see good leadership, and you'll also see some people that are learning how to be leaders. And we want you to learn that too, is you don't have to make all the same mistakes other people do. When you see something doesn't work right, put that in the back of your head. I don't want to do that, right? So that's why we want these, because we need a whole generation of leaders for our industry in the future. And we hope a lot of them will work for us. But if they go other places in the industry, that's okay too. It's good to have smart competition, competent competition, than it is to have incompetent competition. So it's all a part of kind of creating the wherewithal for the engineering community and the construction community to grow. And then why here is because, quite frankly, this is the place that we most align with our philosophy of design, build, integration. That's what they talk about here. Your dean, your faculty here have all done research in that area. They're the head of the program at Iowa State, got her PhD here, studying design build, right? So you realize the influence that this place has on design build. There's a big study that a bunch of people are doing. I think you guys are involved with it, and maybe she's on that team to look at infrastructure, design build, delivery things. And you know, that's where you want to be, is where that is, because that's what's important for our growth. And we think it's a unique niche in the industry to keep us going for another 125 years or so. Things will change. What we build will change, but I think you're well positioned. So that's why we're doing the program. And maybe we gotta hear from students what they think of it.
Sounds good. I think we had a slide for Emma. Just a picture of you.
Oh, nice.
From the, I think the women in Kiewit workshop.
Oh,
that
you were
went to.
back at the workshop last year.
Yeah, I went to 2 years in a row. I was in Omaha for that woman Kiewit
There it is.
conference. Yeah.
Okay, so Emma, this is Emma Andreessen. I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself and turn it and take it away.
So, my name's Emma. I'm a Kiewit Design Build Scholar alum. I started the back in the program in January of 2020, so I was the second cohort that they admitted in. January 2020, that was a very interesting time to remember. It was peak of COVID. Section in Professor Sensi's Intro to Construction class, we might have been just getting back into person, but for the most part, we were pretty remote. Nonetheless, Kiewit kind of came in and offered full support, scholarship right away, paired us up with mentors. We started off going on site visits. One of the first one was the I-70 site visit, which back in January 2020, still had a lot of work to be done. And then I would go to see that same site 3 more times, all the way to pretty much completion this summer. So there was, a full circle kind of aspect to that. But yeah, so the program, they entered us in, we started with mentors. The mentors were really good about doing internship prep, internship prep with interviews and resumes. And then kind of turn us over to some recruiters that we were able to have conversations with about internships. Because I came out of the program in the fall, Kiewit kind of has their interns a little bit earlier. If you've interned with them, they hire in the fall. So I went to go work for a contractor in Denver, which was Melinda White, and I worked on, that's first summer I worked on the South Street Recuperative Care Center as a field engineer. Gained a lot of constructability perspective. Working as a field engineer, we're looking at 9 concrete decks get poured, as well as some steel framing. And then after that summer, went on to, complete some more design courses, as well as interview more so with Kiewit, with the intention of getting a design internship, which did occur. So I got my first internship with Kiewit last summer, and that was a pretty unique internship. Because I was working in the construction engineering services. So the construction engineering services, they do temporary structures. We worked on doing formwork design, tower crane bracing. We checked buildings for additional construction loads. But the reason this was so unique to Kiewit is because it really emphasizes their design build. Before I started any project, working in that internship, we would be on a Microsoft Teams call with the project. We would talk about their needs. We would see the actual site we were working on, what their requirements were, what might be some challenges that might occur. And so sometimes we would see, they would show us the pictures as well as the call, and we'd be like, we would notice something that might be a factor in the design that the job team didn't even think of, that we could implement to make sure our design was safer, more effective, more innovative. And that's kind of the benefit of design build, is that communication, as well as as what you mentioned previously, the cost estimate. So when you're talking to Kiewit engineers versus contracting out, KIE doesn't make a whole lot of money for Kiewit, but they save a lot of money for Kiewit because of that easy communication. Getting the job done quicker, getting the job done the first time correctly versus, having to go redesign and rebuild. So I got to see a lot of the constructability, a lot of the design build. I got to do a lot of design as a Kiewit intern. And then that kind of played into a lot of my coursework. Now I'm doing a lot of, I'm a graduate student now, so I'm doing a lot of graduate design work, but I see, the work I did at Kiewit come back every single day. I'm in a wood design course, and I did my formwork design that I did and the tower crane bracing that I did at Kiewit. I know pretty much exactly how to do it because of the work I did. So that's kind of from an outside perspective of the program, what the opportunities they provided. But from an inside perspective, again, there was mentorships. So I had a mentor. They would meet with me once or twice a month, and we would go through, my first mentor went through actually some of the designs he was doing, which was really good to get kind of a perspective before even getting into Kiewit. They also talked about internships, interviews, resumes, and they connected us with people. They talked about benefits at Kiewit. They talked about salary. They gave us kind of those inside perspectives that you're not going to necessarily get in your classes, which were really beneficial into making decisions on, where you're going to take your next steps as a student. But additionally, inside the Kiewit program, I was able to be a peer mentor. So as a peer mentor, I kind of got to take the perspective that I gained in the last 2 years and give it to a younger student, some of the challenges that I faced, some of the things I learned. Getting internships, applying, interviewing, kind of give my perspective and hopefully make it easier for a Kiewit Design Build Scholar. So there's also that component coming into the program that is more new since I've been in here, since now that we have some more senior level scholars. But yeah, all in all, Kiewit, if I wanted to sum it up briefly, it would be, if you're a Kiewit design program, you're gonna get a lot of opportunities inside the program and outside the program. Inside the program, you're gonna get a lot of support from peer mentors. You're gonna get a lot of support from your peers in the program. A lot of people you'll see in your classes are gonna be in this program. So you get a lot of networking. From an outside perspective, they offer amazing internship opportunities that will help you grow as an engineer. And then when you're leaving out of college, you don't feel like you're lost. You have some idea of what you're doing and where you want to go. And I think those are some of the best aspects of this program, as well as, the financial aspect of the scholarship and helping you pay off some of those loans and keep you out of debt. So you're setting yourself up for success outside.
How often did you meet with your mentor when you're the Kiewit mentor? Was it?
It was
You
like,
did it virtually, right? So it was probably once a month, once every couple of how?
it was, yeah, like once or twice a month. And my first mentor was actually stationed out of California. She was working on a project down there. And so she kind of gave us that perspective. As you know, Kiewit does, they do a lot of work everywhere. So you'll have a lot of connections across the country. So that was kind of a cool perspective to see it. She had that the perspective of moving down to a lot of different places and doing a lot of jobs in different locations, and how that affected her and how she growed with that. So
If you're willing to take an internship outside of Colorado, there's a lot of opportunities there too. In fact, I always encourage, the younger you are, the further I go away from where you live for the summer, because we pay for the house. I mean, and you pay for your travel to get there and back. And the nice thing is that you get to see something else, and you're not doing it alone. We don't put, even in Hawaii, we had, I think, a half a dozen interns out there. So they all lived in the same kind of apartment complex and stuff like that. But I've had intern out of our scholar program in Nebraska and Hawaii every year, and got 2 or 3 going to up Portsmouth, Maine. We got a big project, KIE. There's a lot of temporary work support up there, and that's a pretty challenging Navy project. That's good. And if you're just willing to go, I encourage you to think broader, and as we always say, get off the porch and run with the big dogs.
Any questions from the students for Emma, myself, or Jim?
I have a question. Sorry, yes, I don't know. Real quick. You went into the field and saw field I-70 to I-70 project. Are you called to design? This is kind of my first time thinking about it. To design versus being in the field engineer. What do you feel like one way or the other that's calling for you, and how did going into the field kind of affect what you?
So a big thing, so I do see myself going into design more so than going into field engineering, but if you go into any job interview as a design engineer and you say, I have constructability experience, you're going to be set aside of everyone. They're going to set you aside from everyone. Having constructability experience in the design sector is essential to building usable infrastructure. So, if you want to be a design engineer, I recommend going into the field first and getting constructability.
It's good advice.
Yeah, I had a question for Emma. Just among everything, I guess, that the program has to offer, so the internships, the site visits, what was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part, and I think the most beneficial part of the program, was the internship. The internship, I felt like I got so much experience, hands-on experience. Like Jim said, you are treated like an entry-level engineer. I was doing just as many calculation packages. I was submitting to the project just as much as those entry-level engineers. And through that, I gained so much perspective on design and utilization of the codes. But another aspect of the internship program, outside of just the technical aspects, is you gain a lot of networking experiences. So there's a ton of other interns there that you're having lunch with every single day. We went whitewater rafting once on a Friday because they wanted us to have that, networking experience with our other interns. So that was really cool. And then we would go to happy hours after work with the whole project. or the whole like CES construction engineering services team, and you get to know them and their life outside work, and just the environment and the networking and the experience all together really like came together to be like a full package experience. So
Thank you.
What year did you do your internship?
so I did my internship with Kiewit last summer, so the summer of 2022, and then I was a field engineer in the summer of 2021.
So your junior summer?
Yeah, so I did my sophomore summer at Melinda White and my junior summer at Kiewit, and then I graduated a semester early, so I'm good. Yeah, that's how I graduated.
We will take freshmen after the end of your freshman year into internships, if they're in the scholar program. That's the only, for the most part, we make that, because we have to, you know, there's particularly in design, it's really hard after your freshman year. Figure out where they're gonna place you in a design, but in the field, actually can put you out at that point. So we tend to put them out more on field engineer assignments that first time. And then, of course, then when they go back and work in the design office, they have a little constructability. So now they really can add a lot of value in work tracks and things like that. Now, I think it's important, and it goes back to my own experience. I think when you work in the summers, and you do these things, as much of that experience as you can get, take it, because it also helps you when you get into a class. Somebody draws up a free body diagram. You can't relate to it, but when you realize what that is the kind of loads that you have in bracing here, it makes a lot of sense. And then you ask questions about the details, and you puzzle your professor a little bit about, well, how would you get those bolts out of there if you want to take it apart, right? Because you've been in the field, you kind of know, oh, here's some challenges you'll face. And it helps in the class too. It's not just for your future, but it's actually helping you, I think, be a better student and get back into it.
Any other questions?
This summer I don't have a ton of time for an internship necessarily, but I do have an opportunity to like kind of potentially work with like a craftsman. Would that even be?
Absolutely take it. In fact, if you can't get an engineering, if you can get out and work with your hands, you know, you've got to be in an open shop. The unions won't let you do that for the most part. But that relating, you're going to need to, whenever you work in the field, to relate to the craftsmen, because they teach you so much. We don't realize what they know. And if you have the ability to talk to them and just ask them lots of, and when you go out like that, you're gonna be their helper, and you're gonna learn what the tools are, what all the parts and pieces are and all that. You're gonna be running after all kinds of stuff for them probably. But they're gonna let you, maybe, I don't know what the craft is, but they might let you do a little assembly and electrical, or they might have you welding some things, stacking some things, or whatever, or hooking up things and loads and working with it. You gotta be careful and work with somebody that's looking out for your safety too, but you can learn an awful lot doing that. I'd take that opportunity, even if it's for only a few weeks, to do that. Yep. I'd look back to this day in my career, my people skills, a lot of them came from work. I actually worked my way through school as a boilermaker, and I lost my, but that's why I think it's so important. And once you get further on, you need to be doing field engineering, design engineering stuff. But early on, that's something you can do, and you can learn an awful lot. You learn pretty fast.
Anything else? All right. How about a round of applause for Jim? And Emma,